Now we move to NIS2. So NIS2, you've probably heard a lot about. It's been talked about it for the last 2 years. So this is very different. This is not a standard like DCL and ISO. This is a European law, a directive. So this comes from the European Union, and it's going to be written into the Danish law and the Dutch and the German. So every member country has to write it into a law that applies to that country. So this means that you can get a fine if you're not complying to the law. So don't get nervous when I say this, because you're probably not directly under NIS2. Everyone in this room are from smaller companies, and this NIS2 is directly applicable to companies that are in specific sectors that are critical for society, like energy, transport, and food supply. So it's a societal perspective, like how do we protect our whole society? And companies that are in that sector and that has a certain size. So if you're very small, you are not directly part of NIS2. But that being said, if you are a supplier to someone in the energy sector, for example, then you're also going to feel the effects of this law, because there's a lot of focus on the supply chain. So let's say you're a supplier to the energy sector, then that energy company will look at its supply chain and say, how is your security, and are you documenting this? And we need to see risk assessment, and we need to see you have everything under control. So in that sense, it affects a lot of SMEs and smaller companies. And so when we look at NIS2, the requirements are organized in articles, mainly Article 21 and 23. And just to show you, this is how it looks. So it is very high level the way if you go in and read it. So you don't get a lot of help with, okay, how am I going to actually implement it? What does it really mean when they say basic cyber hygiene, for example? What does that mean? Or incident handling? What is inside? How can I unfold this? You don't get a lot of help currently, but they have written into this law that they can point to certain standards and say you must comply with this standard, and that can be the ISO 27001. It could be the DCL standard, and if you comply with that, then you're also good with NIS2. So we just don't know yet which standards they're going to point to. But what we can see when we look into NIS2 is that it's very much an ISO 27000 light. So if you've implemented ISO 27001, you're in a very good place. And also DCL has been out and in the press and have said, if you follow DCL, you're also good with NIS2. So we can look to those standards, but just to know that this is a law, so it's different. You cannot directly ask for NIS2 certification. Okay, do we have any questions around this before I move on?
Yeah, maybe from me, Bodil Pernille. Is there anything where you think you should be aware where NIS2 differentiates? Let's say you have like a DCL and an ISO certification. Would there be any places where you should be a little bit aware that NIS2 is actually kind of stronger than those two certifications?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's one thing to pay attention to, and that is the requirements for incident reporting. A little bit like we have with the GDPR, there's a 72-hour rule. If you have a breach, if you realize you have a breach, you have to report it within 72 hours. And in NIS2, there's a 24-hour rule for reporting. And again, that's going to hit the companies that are directly affected, but it's going to trickle down, of course. So you might see contracts where it says, we need immediate reporting if you have an incident that affects us. So a good preparation for reporting incident is something to be aware of.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks.
Yes. Okay. So now just a question I often get, so where is the standard? So I just want to make sure I cover that. So the ISO 27001, this is something you actually have to buy. You cannot search online and download a PDF like we're used to. All information is free, but not in this case. The ISO standard is governed by a private organization, and you have to buy it. It's under a license. So you can go to, if you want a version that has English and Danish, you go to that standard here and buy that for around 1,000 kroner. Or you can go to the international ISO.org and get it in English and probably many other languages as well. The DCL, you have free access. You can go to their website, see all the criteria. You can sign up for free to try if you want to check off all those criteria for yourself. You can simply sign up. It only costs money when you decide to get certified. And NIS2 is a law EU directive, and here's one place you can see it. There are many places it's available online, but this is just one place.